Hello and welcome to another episode of Emerging India. We are in Delhi today, and Delhi, as we know, is where all policy measures flow out from. We have seen a few stimulus packages announced by the government. We are going through perhaps the most difficult times that Indian SMEs have ever faced. But let's try and understand if these stimulus packages have been enough, or does India's economic backbone, the SME sector, needs a lot more concern and care from the Government of India. Joining me in this special discussion are Mr. Anil Bhardwaj, who is the Secretary General of FISME, which is the Federation of Indian SMEs. Also with me is Sanjeev Sharawat, General Manager at ICICI Bank. We'll try and get a banking perspective from you. I'm sure most SMEs here want to know that more than anything else. Sanjay Bhatia, Executive Committee Member at FICCI, and Mr. Salil Singhal, who's the Chairman of the CII MSME Council. Also joining me are some entrepreneurs from the city who have perhaps struggled a lot in the last few months. We'll try and get their stories if whether or not things are slightly better. But before I come to all of you, let me try and get some quick comments from the panel members. Mr. Bhardwaj, are things any better, or is the situation still as bad as it was, say, 6 months ago?
I think it's not as bad as it was 6 months ago, because 6 months ago the major problem used to be of liquidity. That problem has been addressed. But the accompanying problem of lack of demand or continued slowdown in the demand continues, and we do not see that any near future there would be a turnaround. And our strong feeling is that I think the recovery is going to take a longer period of time. So there is a painful period ahead. So far as stimulus packages are concerned, I think they address three issues. The first was fiscal stimulus. Under the fiscal stimulus, Government of India reduced excise duty on certain products. Second, there was outlay for the Sixth Pay Commission, which was expected to stimulate the demand, which unfortunately not has happened. The second was big outlays for the infrastructure spending, and as you know that for infrastructure spending it takes 2 to 3 or maybe many more quarters for the impact to be really seen in the market. And third was related to the banking sector. I think that that has paid off in the sense that the banks are in a much better position than they were 6 months ago. But overall, so far as demand is concerned, so far as the situation of MSMEs are concerned, I think they remain as vulnerable as they were earlier. The situation is little better, slightly better.
Okay, let me get FICCI and CII view into this. Mr. Bhatia, are things better today compared to 6 months ago? And what are you engaging with the government for more?
You see, I agree with what Mr. Bhardwaj has said, his initial comments. And still, I would say that the problem relates to mainly marketing and finance. If I put it in broad two terms for this particular sector. Market, as he said, the demands are still very low because this sector particularly contributes about 39% of exports of the total export of India. I mean, from that point of view, the export markets, the markets overseas are bad, and I mean, there's hardly probably anything government can really do about it. But on the finance side, I think that's something which, although in spite of the fact that the monetary measures what government RBI has taken, that has given a lot of funds, finance back to the banks and financial institutions. But whether it is really coming down to the sector, I don't think that is really happening, because they are still having very, very cautious approach on where to land and what to do about it. I think that is where they are really suffering. And third, of course, is the infrastructural issues and other issues, or the tax issues. So there are various issues which this particular sector is struggling.
Are you saying funding is no longer a problem?
No, I think the funding with the bank is not a problem. Let me put it this way: they are flush with funds. But with the sector, with the industrial units, from that point of view, I think there is still an issue which is there. One is the quantum of the funds. Second is the cost of the funds. I think the cost of the funds is another thing because still the rate of interest is very high, and that's what they can ill afford.
From a CII perspective, we see the Indian economic recovery to be far higher than in most countries. On the contrary, we are still on a growth path.
Mr. Singhal, most of your larger CII members are also all the time complaining that while there is liquidity in the system, we are not getting access to funds that easily. Of course, it's eased out a bit in the last even perhaps couple of months, even as we speak. But as far as the medium and smaller enterprises are concerned, is the pain still there?
I mean, the statistics of the banks are quite clear. The credit offtake is down substantially. So, I mean, there is no brainer here. I think, I mean, if I go by what Mr. Bharadwaj said, there is the issue of sentiment. The consumer has been led to believe in conserving cash, given the uncertain times in which we are living in. He also expects dramatic fall in prices. So whether it is automobiles, whether it is housing, whether it is all these other consumer items, barring the necessities, any indulgence of doing something better for quality of life, he is willing to take a little time to decide on his buying options. So that question about the availability of market is affected by the sentiment of the consumer. In terms of bank finance, no questions about it, the interest rates are very high. No question about it that the credit offtake, the growth in credit offtake is substantially low. And I think this is now the right time to look at some very structural changes in which the SMEs, the